Have you ever wondered what series of events led to the most devastating conflict in human history? Indeed, the genesis of World War II was a complex interweaving of factors that set the world on a course towards destruction and chaos. Let's start with territorial disputes. The desire for land expansion and resource control was a significant driving force. Countries like Germany, under the rule of Adolf Hitler, were consumed by the idea of Lebensraum, or living space, which they sought in Eastern Europe, primarily in Poland. These territorial ambitions eventually led to invasions and annexations, stoking the fires of war. Then there was the rise of fascism. In the 1930s, the world witnessed the emergence of totalitarian regimes in Germany, Italy, and Japan. They espoused extreme nationalism, militarism, and the suppression of opposition, creating a volatile political environment. These regimes were determined to overturn the existing world order and establish their dominance, pushing the world closer to the brink of war. The aftermath of World War I also played a critical role. The Treaty of Versailles, which ended the First World War, left a legacy of bitterness and resentment, particularly in Germany. The treaty's punitive measures, including hefty war reparations and territorial losses, were seen as a national humiliation. This discontent was skillfully exploited by Hitler, leading to a surge in support for his aggressive policies. The spark that ignited the powder keg, however, was Germany's invasion of Poland in 1939. This act of aggression was a flagrant violation of international law and a clear indication of Germany's territorial ambitions. It prompted the United Kingdom and France to declare war on Germany, marking the official start of World War II. And so, the stage was set for a global conflict like no other. The world was about to witness a war that would involve the majority of the world's countries, redraw the global map, and change the course of history forever. With the war declared, the world watched as the Axis powers began their conquest. As we delve into the second chapter of our World War II narrative, we see the birth of the Axis alliance. This formidable coalition comprised three major powers: Germany, Italy, and Japan. These nations, united by common goals and ideologies, set the stage for a conflict of unprecedented scale. Germany, under the iron fist of Adolf Hitler, sought to establish a new world order, an order of Aryan supremacy. Italy, led by the ambitious Benito Mussolini, aimed to resurrect the Roman Empire's glory. Meanwhile, Japan, driven by its militaristic government, was eager to dominate Asia and the Pacific. The Axis powers' rise was swift and brutal. Germany, with its blitzkrieg tactics, stormed across Europe, swallowing country after country in its wake. The world watched in horror as Poland, France, Belgium, and other nations fell under the Nazi rule within mere months. Simultaneously, Italy was making its own inroads. Mussolini's forces invaded and annexed Albania and launched a successful campaign in North Africa. The Mediterranean, once a peaceful sea, was now a battleground. On the other side of the globe, Japan was carving its own bloody path. It invaded China, triggering the Sino-Japanese War, a brutal conflict that would last for 8 grueling years. Japan's ambition didn't stop there. It spread its tentacles across Southeast Asia and the Pacific, capturing territories like the Philippines, Singapore, and many others. In just a few short years, the Axis powers had managed to conquer vast swathes of Europe and Asia. Their rapid expansion and ruthless tactics sent shockwaves around the globe. The world was in the grip of a war unlike any it had ever seen. But as the saying goes, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The rest of the world, alarmed by the Axis powers' unchecked aggression, began to rally. And so, the stage was set for the world's greatest conflict to escalate even further. As the Axis powers expanded their reach, the rest of the world began to push back. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in the Second World War, a chapter filled with major battles and campaigns that would shape the course of history. From the Pacific to North Africa, from Europe to Russia, the world was a battleground. The scale and intensity of World War II were unprecedented, with major battles and campaigns taking place across the globe, each significantly impacting the course of the war. In the Pacific, the Battle of Midway was a turning point. The United States, with its superior intelligence and strategy, managed to sink 4 Japanese aircraft carriers, effectively halting Japan's Pacific expansion. This battle established the United States as a dominant force in the Pacific theater, shifting the momentum of the war. Meanwhile, in North Africa, the Allies' victory in the Second Battle of El Alamein marked the beginning of the end for the Axis powers in Africa. It was a strategic victory that prevented the Axis from gaining control of the Suez Canal and the Middle Eastern oil fields, crucial resources for sustaining the war effort. On the Eastern Front, the Battle of Stalingrad stands as one of the bloodiest battles in history. The Soviet Union's successful defense of the city marked a significant turning point, halting the German advance into the Soviet Union and beginning a series of defeats for the German army on the Eastern Front. In Western Europe, the D-Day landings in Normandy were pivotal. The largest seaborne invasion in history, it marked the start of the Allied invasion of German-occupied Western Europe, leading to the eventual downfall of Nazi Germany. The Pacific, North Africa, Europe, and Russia, each region saw fierce battles, with millions of lives lost. Each battle, a cog in the machine of war, played a vital role in the overall course of the conflict. These battles, fought in the air, on land, and at sea, would shape the outcome of the war. As the war dragged on, the tide began to turn against the Axis powers. The Allies, bolstered by strategic decisions and key victories, began to regain their foothold. In Europe, the defeat of Germany was a pivotal turning point. The Allies' relentless pressure and strategic advances, coupled with Germany's dwindling resources, began to chip away at the once seemingly invincible Axis force. The Battle of Stalingrad, a brutal engagement that lasted over 5 months, marked a significant turning point. It ended with a resounding victory for the Soviet Union, drastically shifting the momentum of the war in Europe. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, in the Pacific theater, another monumental event was unfolding. The United States, having entered the war after the attack on Pearl Harbor, was now a major player. The dropping of atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki marked a new and terrifying chapter in warfare. These devastating attacks caused unprecedented destruction and loss of life, ultimately leading to Japan's surrender. The surrender of Germany and Japan signaled the end of the Axis alliance. The world watched as these once formidable powers laid down their arms and surrendered unconditionally to the Allies. These events not only marked the end of World War II, but also the beginning of a new, uncertain era. With the surrender of the Axis powers, the most devastating conflict in human history had finally come to an end. The world had changed. The aftermath of the war was as profound as the conflict itself. The Second World War had left an indelible mark on the globe, reshaping the political and social landscape in ways that would reverberate for decades to come. The end of the war saw 2 nations emerge as superpowers, the Soviet Union and the United States. These 2 countries, each with their distinctive ideologies and political systems, would vie for global dominance in the ensuing Cold War era. This bipolar world order was a direct consequence of the power vacuum left by the war, as nations previously considered great powers had been ravaged and weakened by the conflict. Simultaneously, the war had highlighted the need for a unified global body to maintain peace and prevent future conflicts. This led to the establishment of the United Nations in October of 1945. The UN, with its charter to promote peace, social progress, better living standards and human rights, represented a beacon of hope in a world recovering from the horrors of war. The aftermath of the war also triggered a wave of decolonization movements across Africa and Asia. Nations that had been under colonial rule began to agitate for independence, inspired in part by the fight against fascist and imperialist forces during the war. This rush towards self-determination was a significant shift in the global political landscape, ending centuries of colonial domination. But the impact of the war was not just political. Socially, the war had exposed the depths of human cruelty, but also the heights of bravery and resilience. It had changed the way societies viewed conflict and peace, Power and justice, freedom and oppression. The echoes of World War II can still be heard today, a testament to its lasting impact on our world. The war had reshaped our planet, and its lessons continue to inform our understanding of conflict, power, and the human capacity for both destruction and renewal. The Second World War, a global conflict that shook the very foundations of humanity. From its inception in 1939, with the invasion of Poland, to the rise and fall of the Axis powers, the world bore witness to a war like no other. The great battles fought across various regions, the overwhelming human cost, and the reshaping of the global landscape in the aftermath. These are the chapters of a story that changed the course of history. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. Don't forget to subscribe to Brainwave Trek for more insights into our past.